welcome back into 410 Sports Talk.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell here with my co-host Glenn Martin, and we are continuing our trip around the AFC North. We have done the Bengals. Make sure you check that one out. The Browns, and now we are doing the lowly, hated, despised Steelers.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about this one. We're going to talk about their offseason acquisitions, of course, based on draft. And then free agency, their losses as well, and then analyze where they're at, where we think they're going to end up, and talk a little bit about what we should be concerned about or not concerned about. So, Glenn, I'm going to name they have a couple losses. They didn't have a ton of losses in the offseason, but the one that I'm only really going to name one. If you feel the need to name more than that, that's fine. But the one that I consider to be most pertinent and that will have the biggest impact is Ramon Foster. He was their left guard on the offensive line, 34 years old, retired. Look, their offensive line, I think, has been underrated. Not by everybody, but I think by the general public has been underrated, underappreciated, and underrecognized for the numbers that it's produced with various backs in the backfield and as an offense in general. And he was one of their dogs up front. He's not Marshall Yanda by any means, but that consistency and that dog-type mentality was something that he definitely had in the trenches. So I think that's something they will sorely miss, and it's not easily replaced. So I can't think of any other key losses that they had in the offseason unless there's someone that I'm not thinking about, but I think that was the number one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think a good offensive line makes a lot of people look a lot better, and we started to see some when Le'Veon Bell first left. Connor kind of exploded on the scene and was a favorite in a lot of fantasy drafts and a lot of fantasy leagues around the country.
Right.
But last year, now look, Big Ben going out last year completely derailed their season, and they were done as soon as that happened. But I think we saw we saw that their running backs, they don't have a 3-down running back. They have guys, but they don't have a guy. Like, they don't have the guy like they had for years with Le'Veon. So I think their running attack is something that's really going to suffer from the departures of Ramon Foster. And now they did their best to try and replace him. They brought in Steven Wisniewski, who can play guard and center, and they're hoping he can kind of fill that role. But it's going to be tough. Ramon Foster was a heck of a player, even though he probably isn't a household name everywhere. He was a heck of a player. Now let me just add who else that they brought in free agency.
Yeah, because they did a lot in free agency.
Yeah, well, they brought in some guys that I think can really help them. They brought tight end Eric Ebron over from the Colts, who is a pass catching tight end, a guy that can really run from the tight end position. He can line up in the slot. He can certainly stretch you in the middle of the field, running up that seam. It's something that they didn't have. They didn't have a lot of speed in that position in recent years, and we know Big Ben loves to throw the ball to the tight end, like most quarterbacks do. They like to throw the ball over the middle and dominate the middle of the field early on. And last year, I guess you can say what you want about the quarterback situation was just, it was tough to overcome for them. So a lot of people want to say that Juju showed himself as to be a number 2. I guess that's fair, but to me, we don't really know what you're getting out of Juju when you got Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph under center. I don't know how much you can really fault Juju and make it seem like he's just a Robin to someone else's Batman at all time. But to me, this is the year. We'll see, because apparently Big Ben's healthy. I don't know about all that. To me, he looks heavy. He looks, what is he, 37, 38 years old, coming off of a major elbow injury. I don't know. I'll say this as a Ravens fan. I am thrilled the fact that I don't know how much Big Ben has left in the tank, and they do not have their quarterback of the future on this roster. Duck Hodges, Mason Rudolph, he stinks. They both stink. And so this, as a Ravens fan, I'm pretty thrilled because I don't see a quarterback past this season on their roster.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And, just to buffer your point, I kind of mentioned this. I think that the Browns, in the Browns episode, make sure you guys go check it out. I mentioned that they're going to be second in the AFC North kind of by default because some people are, for some reason, I guess it's because it's the Steelers. They have a winning culture. Tomlin's never had a losing season. I'm going to say this year is going to be the first time he'll have a losing season. And I know it's hard to think about because last year he went 8-8 with a patch job at quarterback between Rudolph and Hodges. But look, man, the reason that I think that they're going to go, below 8-8 has everything to do with the guy under center. If you guys, bear with me here for a second, I'm going to show you what their quarterback currently looks like. Okay. This is your starting quarterback. Like what else? I mean, he looks like he belongs on the offensive line. He's definitely aging. He's definitely hiding his second and third chin based on his alcohol consumption is what I'm assuming based on what I've heard. And I'm throwing a lot of fire right now, aren't I?
Yeah, let him have it.
And I don't see it. They have some pieces, but they're missing a lot. They're aging as a team. I think that there's going to have to come a period where Tomlin can only make these guys, you can only push guys so far as their talent will take them. I just don't know if they have the talent to overcome their shortcomings.
We're talking a lot about the offense. Let's talk a little bit, first of all, about the draft, and then let's talk a little bit about the defensive side, because in the draft, they got some interesting picks. So we know they didn't have a first-round pick last year. They used that to go get Minkah Fitzpatrick, which I think a lot of Steeler fans are relatively happy with their return on that, especially when you consider the plays he made last season down the stretch. He seemed to score a touchdown damn near every game, kind of like what Humphrey was doing for us. But their first pick was in the second round. They grabbed a receiver, which we know that the Steelers have a reputation of being able to develop receivers. So this could be concerning for Ravens fans with them grabbing Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame with the 49th overall pick. And he's a guy that's got size and speed combination that's just not seen every day. He's 6'4", 240 pounds, so a big dude, yet he ran a 4.4 240. So big speed. He's a guy that, he needs to improve his route running and try and get a little bit more separation, which could be a struggle for him, especially because he's not great at, despite his size, he's not great at getting off the line and dealing with a press. But, man, if he can – it's funny. I'm actually looking at a scouting report on him, and his NFL comparison is Miles Boykin.
Oh, that's funny because the way you're reading it to me, I immediately thought of Rashad Perryman.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some of the size and speed similarities, no doubt. But I don't know. He doesn't have a lot of shake. He doesn't have a ton of movement in his hips, but he's got the size, strength, and speed to give some corners some trouble vertically. And we know how they develop. Again, I mean, a lot of it is where you go, and certain teams just have a knack of developing certain positions, and the Steelers definitely have that at receiver. So he could end up being a good player for them. And then they went in the next round, they went and grabbed a linebacker that a lot of people were high on as a later pass rusher, Alex Highsmith out of UNC Charlotte, who's coming from a smaller school, but people were pretty high on him as being a guy that could impact the quarterback at the next level. And then, they may have replaced Ramon Foster in theory when they got a guard, Kevin Dotson out of Louisiana, who has been described as just a typical Steeler guard, just a mauler, tough guy, the kind of guy that you want on your offensive line and that we love here. We love those nasty guys here in Baltimore, and I think they do as well. So they got Dotson, and we can't go away without talking about our Maryland guys, because they seem to get a Maryland guy every freaking year, which is tough as a Maryland fan because I don't like the Steelers whatsoever. But they went and got Anthony McFarland, the running back out of Maryland, and then they went and got Antoine Brooks Jr., the safety, at pick 198. So, of course, we're going to like those guys somewhat because they're Terps. But to me, McFarland is a speed guy. He's a change of pace guy. He's not a 3-down running back. He's a running back that's more of a complementary to a bell cow, in my opinion. Now, he could complement if Connor is healthy. He could be a nice complement for James Conner because he's certainly the more physical and first and second down runner, and McFarland is more of a change of pace guy. But it'll be interesting to see. But on defense, to me, they bring back Bud Dupree on a franchise tag, which I think was more of a desperation move. They felt like they had to have somebody. I don't know. I mean, what do you think on the defensive side? We talked offense. What do you think defensively? Does it scare you at all? I mean, they got Devin Bush last year. What do you think?
Right. So, I mean, they had a solid defense last year, right? One of the best in the league. And they have some young pieces that now have another year to develop, get older. I think Watt is going to continue to add to his game. And then Bush, of course, with that year under his season, this is where you see that big jump. But other than Minkah Fitzpatrick, who in their secondary does anything for you?
Yeah, I mean, unless you're a big Antoine Brooks Jr. fan, which I liked him at Maryland, but he certainly wasn't a perfect player. I saw plenty of situations where, he played at Maryland, so he didn't necessarily have the greatest talent surrounding him. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. They have a chance to be good. They were good last year. They traded for Wormley, so that should help. Huh?
A big worm, dude. Big worm.
Yeah, they went and got Big Worm, but they did lose Mark Barron from the inside, who's more of a tweener guy. He's a guy that came out as a safety, moved to linebacker, but he's got some speed, but not necessarily great at taking on blockers and stuff. So I don't know. To me, they're just their season's going to come down to Big Ben. If he's healthy, if he's like anything like the old Big Ben, then they got a shot at being pretty good because it's Big Ben, and they got good players. And you mentioned their defense last year was pretty good. They got a good front seven. Minkah made a bunch of plays on the back end, so they have a chance. But it all comes down to one guy, and that's Big Ben. And from that picture, and just from his age standpoint, he's coming off of a major elbow injury. I wouldn't be too confident. And the fact that they don't have anyone behind him that gives you any type of confidence. I don't think Mason Rudolph is a player whatsoever. Duck Hodges, not a player whatsoever. They are strictly, at best, backup quarterbacks, and that is it. So I love the fact that, as a Ravens fan, I look at our quarterback. He's young. He's talented. He's coming off of MVP season, and really he looks like his best football is in front of him.
Yeah.
So as a Ravens fan, I'm pretty excited looking at the Steelers team, knowing that he's one hit away and they're one hit away from having another season down the tubes.
Yeah, I'll just bring up one name. Not that I've heard anything about this. Usually I have insider information, but on this one I'm not hearing too much. My boots on the ground aren't giving me too much. But, Cam Newton just said he's willing to take a backup job. Could be a decent fit for him. If Ben stays healthy this year and he's the backup this year, well, Ben is pretty close to retirement either way, and then he could step in. Now, Cam is not a spring chicken. I don't know how long he wants to sit on the sideline and wait for his shot, and he's a former number one pick. But like you said, chances are Ben's not playing 16 games, period.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. Not that I want that to happen. Cam Newton, don't go to the Steelers. Don't.
I know. That would be – jeez Louise, I got my son over here playing a very aggressive pretend karate game or something, and he's a ninja, sorry, and he's knocking over everything. But, no, I mean, yeah, it comes down to him. It comes down to Big Ben and only Big Ben. They added some weapons around him with Claypool and Ebron and McFarland behind him. So they're doing everything they can, but if they don't, I mean, he's not just one hit away, because we know how Big Ben played. He likes to hang on the ball to give as much time for his receivers to free themselves and make big plays down the field. So he's already plays a style in which he leaves himself open to more hits than the average quarterback. But let's remember, his injury last year wasn't from a hit. He was throwing, and his elbow just gave out because of his age. So, and he's never been known as a tireless worker. He's not a guy that you expect to be winning any weightlifting awards or any achievements you'll see patched onto his jersey for off-season workouts. So unless he's totally changed his work ethic,
His
I
whole
mean,
life.
yeah, I mean that this is who he is. So I don't see that changing. So he's any moment. I mean, if I was a Steeler fan, I'd be like, when is Ben going to get hurt? Not if, but when.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I'll never forget the ESPN. They were showing some stuff, in preseason from camp, from training camp, and you can see the players. They have they're showing. They're doing like a panoramic of the Steelers camp and the players. It looks like a group of them, like a position group or something, just running some laps or something like that. And Ben is driving a golf cart. So yeah. It is what it is. Like you said, it really all hinges on he's what, 37 now?
Yeah, he's 37 or 30. I think when the season starts, he'll be 38, but I could be wrong.
Like quarterbacks are playing longer, but I think those quarterbacks that are playing longer are really diligent and disciplined. And I mean, look at Tom Brady's dedication. As much as I don't like Tom Brady, I respect his dedication. It is unmatched. Period. End of story. Just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and those guys play different games. Those guys are great at keeping themselves upright and avoiding big hits through pocket presence and quick release, and that's just not Big Ben's game. The whole thing that made him great is he's a statue. He's Big Ben. He stands back there and he holds onto the ball and he gives his receivers time to free themselves and make big plays. So I mean, but on the other hand, what if Big Ben looks 85% of the old Big Ben, 80% of the old Big Ben, and does get through all 16 games? Then they have a shot at being pretty decent and making some noise as a possible wild card team.
I don't disagree with that. The only thing I will say is I think as a team, they're not injecting enough youth on the offensive side of the ball to where, I don't know, I feel like that line is another year older. They still have a lot of the same pieces. It's been the same pieces since like the Le'Veon Bell run started, right? Like the Le'Veon Bell got good. I mean, how many years ago was that? Is that 5 years now when Le'Veon, like his ascension started? More?
I think it's been more than 5, yeah.
I mean, so what I'm trying to say is that, I don't know, to me, and look, I don't cover the Steelers like I do the Ravens. I'm not as detail-oriented with them as I am with the Ravens, but I do know a decent amount about the Steelers. And I feel like when you hang on to the same names for too long and you try for one more year and you patch it together, there's a point where, I mean, you remember our 5-11 season, 5-11, isn't that what it was? What happened? Anyway, when we've gotten too old is what I'm trying to say, and we've hung on too long,
yeah,
there's a problem. And so I think the Steelers are teetering right there, and I think it's gonna come back to bite them this year. I think it's when it's gonna happen. They're just too old in the wrong positions.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. So, unless you have anything else, I think that's it for the Steelers roundup.
Yeah, the only thing I'll have to say is make sure you guys subscribe.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, notification bell so you keep getting the most up-to-date videos, and we'll talk soon.